Hello and welcome to today's Wellness and Hospitality podcast. I have a very special guest, Alberto Apostoli, founder of Studio Apostoli and other wellness specialist firms. Alberto, it is an absolute honor to have you in my show.
Oh, thank you, Sonali. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk with you. It's always a pleasure and happy to be here, of course.
I love the work you do. We go back a long time and I'm just seeing all the fantastic projects that you're working on, not only in the wellness front, but also when it comes to, wellness retreats, the hotel front. So tell me, Alberto, how have, these last few years in wellness and hospitality, how have they shifted your perspective?
Well, the question is it's quite complex, but I would say that wellness component became now the primary things to keep in mind when you design hospitality, luxury hospitality. So let me say that we switch from wellness facilities to wellness destination. And even if you are talking about an hotel that is not particularly dedicated to wellness, but in any case, the wellness component has always to be present. And it doesn't matter if you are looking for a good spa, a good rooms, a good F&B, and everything has to talk today about wellness. It's a very interesting because of the now, there's another things to keep in mind that, sustainability is another value.
Yes.
And people today, it's connecting wellness and sustainability. As I always say, that, wellness is spice wellness for people and sustainability is wellness for the planet. So we are lucky because wellness grows a lot even because we got a very strong sustainability sensibility. And so I think that wellness is not more an addition or an optional. It's something that it's absolutely integrated with the high-end international hospitality offer. And this thing is particularly after COVID. COVID changed everything, particularly the mental and spiritual component in the spa or in the hotels. And this is another big trend that I'm facing in all the part of the world in which we are working or we are designing. So it's a good period, and it will be better years after years.
Yeah, you're right. I think, the pandemic definitely took us to a very, just accelerated the growth of our industry. And now it's, if you're going to do luxury properly, you have to have the wellness component. And as you rightly point out, the sustainability element. And if a hotel doesn't have that, they're just not going to have consumers going forward.
Yeah.
So, given given that this very unique moment we're living in our industry, there's a clear momentum, and this industry is going to grow. But where do you see, this intersection of wellness and hospitality? Let's say in the short, mid, and long term. So, short term would be, let's say, all of this year, mid term next year, and long term we can say from 2027 onwards.
Uh, in my opinion, we got three main directions to follow. The first one is absolutely to exploit as much as possible the spiritual component of human being. This is a request not only in the Eastern country, but also in the Western country, uh, particularly because we are officially, let me say, officially losing the connection with the classical religions. But the spiritual component is not possibly to quit. So we need absolutely to recover this aspect, and wellness is the perfect environment to to do it. The second aspect that I'm really trying to looking for and to analyze in details is the contribution of AI in the wellness proposal.
Very good.
We are facing a lot of opportunities right now, and the main idea is that AI could help you to define new programs or maybe new, new architectural settings of the places. So the influences of AI will be tremendously important in the wellness component. And I'm really trying to understand a little bit more. Not easy, still early, probably, but the contribution of this aspect will be massive. And the third aspect for me is the neuroscience and neuroarchitecture in the new wellness environments. I mean, we discovered that it's possible to relate, uh, the environment and to analyze the consequences of the environment in the human mind, body, and soul. And it's measurable. So what I'm really trying to do, and is a trend,
Mhm.
is to create spa in which neuroscience and neuroarchitecture is one of the driver of design and also of selling. So the problem is that this spa, this facility, this boutique wellness retreat, whatever, has been designed according also to the principle of neuroarchitecture and neuroscience. So as you can imagine, we got a very spiritual things
Mm.
and a very scientific approach, and these two things could be combined. And if we are able to combine, the evolution of our industry will be incredibly interesting.
So, we're in midst, from what I'm hearing, we're in this delicate moment where this is a convergence of, as you said, something key. We're talking about spirituality. We're talking about wellness. We're talking about sustainability. We're talking about AI. We're talking about, you see, this inclusion of neuroscience within there and the impact on how we feel. And then it's also how our purpose, our spirituality. So we have very diverse subfields or fields converging. And when such different fields converge to one point, or we're in this vortex, we're seeing that happen.
Yeah,
Um, what are the potential spanners in the work? Because nothing ever grows smoothly, right? We know that we've been enough in the industry
yeah.
long enough to know. What potential spanners do you see, or things that we need to watch out for?
Uh, uh, the problems with this kind of approach in wellness is that we need absolutely to train people and to transform a staff skills in something different. So probably we are facing a new line of staff skills that we need to implement in the training of the people, of the staff people, of the staff, I mean, because we are talking no more about simple, let me say the word simple is not correct, but it's not a series of menus of treatment. It's not a series of treatments or massage or services. It's something that we need to fulfill with content. And honestly, the training stuff or the classical training stuff never include this kind of things. They are more concentrated in the client services, in the treatment, in the manualities, but they are not prepared. I mean, the staff are not prepared for this kind of languages. But the funny thing is that the final client are prepared for this kind of approach. So we got a gap to fulfill. And the gap is that our client, specifically high-end client,
Mhm.
are more prepared than the staff.
Yes. That's the challenge we have.
It could be possible that our client, uh, because they travel a lot, because they see many things, because they read a lot, and but the staff is not prepared. So all the businesses, no, normally the professionals are better than the clients. In our world, and this is and will be stronger. This phenomena will be it's completely opposite.
I
So
know.
we're facing clients that are more prepared than the professionals.
Yes. And that, I mean, education is, I agree, where we are failing miserably, training, education, and
Completely.
that's both companies and people. It's also our professionals. As you said, in other industries, for example, like yours, architecture, for example, your clients could be well versed in architecture, but they're not going
Mhm.
to know more than you, right? You're not going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
find that unless they're an architect. So you're right. You're so right. But that, because we're seeing it continuously, and that gap causes that kind of dissonance. The guest doesn't get the experience they want because they don't have a practitioner who is further
It,
along the path.
yeah, it's a when you go when you go to a doctor, it's not possible that you know better than the specialist. But in the wellness industry, it happens. It happens. I will say, I tasted personally. So, of course, I'm one of I in the business, so maybe I can understand a little bit more than the average staff members. But it's something that I see all the times. And when I talk with final client, they say, "Okay, was good," but I try to ask something more or something upgrade in the informations, and they are not trained to give me answers. Uh, and if wellness will improve in the content, this gap will become bigger.
I agree. Yeah, it's so true. As you said, as we're getting more science based, more evidence based, and that information is growing at such an exponential rate, and our consumers already consuming them and
Yeah.
seeing results and making it theirs. When they will come, especially to wellness and hospitality, when they come to our wellness facilities and our hotels, they will suddenly find they're like, oh my God, I know more than the person who's doing. Yes, I
and
agree.
it
Yeah, very
and
valid.
it's terrible, and it's terrible when you feel it. So and particularly in wellness, because we need to you need to face different dimensions of human being.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you can be very good in the body aspects. You can be able to treat a muscle problem, or maybe energy problem. But what about the mental, or what about the spiritual? In that case, the gap and the lack of information and training and education, it's dramatic.
Hmm. And we were speaking earlier on, you've been in this industry for so long. You also have specialist firms in wellness. You also operate wellness facilities. You advise, you get in very early, you advise also hoteliers like boutique hotel owners or wellness retreat owners. You advise them, and okay, if you have X funds, this is how we could make your project come to life. So given this new movement of boutique hotel owners who probably don't have any prior experience in hospitality, but have this deep wellness purpose, so they come with that wellness
Yeah.
purpose, what advice do you normally give them? Because they obviously come green to a certain extent, but they're incredibly purpose driven. What advice do you give them?
Yeah, the thing happens, I will say today, 70-80% of the time. My advice is always the same. It's to face the whole project as a unique issues. I mean, you cannot forgive any aspects of a project. So you need to understand in details what's your market, who's gonna be your target. What about the BP, the
Mm,
operational business plan? It works or not? To define the capex. to define the right quality of architecture, the MIP, the sustainability approach, or maybe some aspects that are related of the how you think to engage or to host your stuff. It's a problem today. So the first moment that we always say is that we need to find if the project is sustainable by the whole aspects:
Mm.
design, economics, training, product, marketing. So we always say that we need to fulfill the entire things as a whole, even if in a preliminary stage. So it's not a step-by-step process, it's a parallel process that move forward at the same level, but facing all the different disciplines and approaches. And it's a very interesting approach, and is very appreciated by my client, because they say, okay, even if you are working in a very preliminary stage, anyway, you don't forget anything. So I'm aware that we are managing all the bottoms, all the levels, so we are not forgetting any aspects that maybe could be less important in the beginning, but after maybe 1 year or 2 years, they will be a massive problem, and it means that you need to redesign or rethink completely the facility. So my advice is always to start from a very strategic
Very important.
project that include all the aspect of the project.
Yeah.
Uh, and it
That's
works.
what saves that money down the road, because you just can't make it a passion project. You have to bring the strategy in right at the beginning,
Yeah.
really stress test it.
You need, to change your head
Yeah.
completely from the first moment. Some architects try to, most of the architects, if they are not specialized, they think that design drives everything, but it's not correct. Uh, our payoff is very clear. We define ourselves wellness creators through architecture. So architecture is a tools, it's not a purpose. That's because it's possible to do this if your choices are justified by a generical and massive strategy.
Hmm.
And so my advice is always the same. Try to face the project with the right step from the very first moment.
Very sage advice, because I think it front loads a lot of the thinking, and it can probably feel overwhelming at first to consider, like, how it'll look in 10 or 25 years' time. But that's the only way to make that project successful. Otherwise, as you said, they'll see themselves 3 or 4 years down the line and they have to redo things, and it just
Yeah,
gets more expensive because they didn't take that time to really strategize, pay for that strategic coaching to get them forward.
yeah.
And and now, like, going back to what we were talking about, there's this gap between where the where our practitioners are, where our service providers, where our therapists are, their knowledge gap compared to where our guests are. And particularly those in the luxury segment, because they go to the best of the best of the best
Yeah.
places. Um, and you also have your spa management company. What advice would you give? All these young therapists who then get promoted to wellness directors. What advice would you give them to bridge that gap?
Uh, Again, it's of course it's a teamwork,
Hmm.
of course. But the advice is always, in this case, to share a very trained method in the approach in the project, but at the same time, we need to be brave in order to create something that is good in 5 years, in 10 years. This is not easy, and it's probably the most exclusive expertise that people like me or like you must have, okay? Because we need to envision the future, in wellness, but at the same time, we need to maintain a very, very professional method with a vision.
Yeah.
Uh, it's always a combination of different things, but my advice is always to not be afraid of big changes or big trend that maybe could seems very light in the beginning, but to follow the big trends and to be advised choosing first of all the right consultant.
Yeah.
Uh, you know better than me that wellness it's not a very old business.
No,
So
it's
it means
new.
that we don't have 1 century or 2 century company on the market, and the capacity of the owners is to choose the right person and the right team. So it's a process. It's a method first of all, but it's always is also a brave exercise.
I agree. And I think this is very good advice for everyone who wants to get into this industry. It's that brave move, increasing our capacity. We are a young industry, as you said, and
Yeah.
to embrace the trends. I mean, we're growing, and with that comes the bravery to walk into the unknown and really increase our capacity. So, very, very sage advice. And as we wrap up, anything else you'd like to add?
No, it's as I said, I would say the last things I would say is that we have the pleasure to work in an industry that implies a kind of missions.
Mm.
I mean, we are also no. Let me say, we have a role of improving society because if people lives a little bit more in a wellness mood, probably society in general will improve. I mean, wellness is also a way to live, and we are always teaching that you need to be relaxed, you need to be in a good mood, you need to be energy positively talking. So we are contributing to a better society. And this changed completely our role. So we are not only professionals, but our scope of work is also to create a better society. Maybe it's a vision, maybe it's a utopian target, but this could change our way to think the project and the way in which we work and we advise also client because in addition if we share this mission we are able to communicate this mission to our client, to the investors, to the operators. Maybe it's positively the final things is a positive new society. Let me say, maybe I'm a little bit
No, I
dream.
100% agree. And I think, there is something incredibly powerful that happens at the intersection of wellness and hospitality. There is no other industry or the marrying of two industries that can have this power impacting lives, right? Local community, guests who come there. You're allowing them to your home, so to speak, your way of living. You're sharing those secret spaces where you've held such beautiful moments, your way of eating, your way of healing yourself.
Yeah,
And also being being integrity with the environment, and I think, as you said,
absolutely.
this is, and I love the way you put it, we're showing people a new way of doing business, you know,
Yeah,
profitability, of course, will always matter, but
yeah,
not at the cost of your environment, the local community. So I think it's, as you said, spreading, it's the vision of a far better future that doesn't degenerate, but regenerate the future going forward. So
yeah. It's an ethical aspect, of course, but this if you look at of our industry with this way, you perceive and you will be more energetic in what you're doing. because the role that you are playing, that we are playing, it's enormous. It's huge.
It is. And we're very lucky we're in this industry now.
Yeah.
And I'm always so lucky to speak to you. Love the work you're doing, Alberto. Thank you so much for all the impact you're making. Thank you for raising all the awareness. So, a heartfelt thank you. And thank you also so much for allowing me to capture you, like to kidnap you and, and
It's
interview
been a
you.
pleasure for me. It's been a pleasure for me, Sonal. Really. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.